I thought Spotify Wrapped would be fun, but instead it destroyed me. You'd think I would have cried right away, right? But no. When I saw his top artist, his top songs, his top everything drenched in someone else's fingerprints, I laughed. Not a real laugh, more like a broken sound that escaped my throat, jagged and wrong, half choke, half giggle. My brain refused to make sense of it. It felt absurd, like some cruel glitch in the algorithm. Except Spotify doesn't make mistakes like that. It doesn't fabricate hundreds of plays or build a love story through sound unless someone, him, pressed repeat again and again, feeding it devotion. And none of it was about me. We'd been together for 2 years. Not whirlwind love, not fireworks every night, but a steady, quiet warmth, the kind of love you trust. I knew his coffee order better than my own. He knew my nervous habits, the way I twisted the hem of my sleeve when something bothered me. We had our inside jokes, our Sunday rituals, our playlists, especially the playlists. Music was the heartbeat of us. He'd spin me around in the kitchen while the kettle whistled, grinning like I was the only girl in the universe. On road trips, we'd fight over the aux cord, shouting lyrics into the wind, laughing until our voices cracked. At night, when I was too restless to sleep, he'd hum low against the back of my neck, his chest a steady drum behind me. He always said, "Songs say what I can't." And I believed him. I built our love inside those lyrics. So when his Spotify Wrapped dropped that afternoon, bright, cheerful graphics, neon confetti exploding across the screen, I thought I'd find us there. I thought I'd see the soundtrack of our love spelled out in data. Our songs, our memories, our story. But the story it told wasn't ours. The first song stopped me cold. Sweet, romantic, intimate, but it wasn't one of ours. Not a single lyric carried my name. Not a single note tied to a memory I recognized. My chest tightened. I tried to brush it off. Maybe it was just a random new artist he liked. Then came the second. Another love ballad, syrupy and aching, dripping, with promises of forever. I'd never heard it before, but it didn't sound like just a song to him. It sounded like a confession. The third one twisted deeper. The fourth felt like a punch. Each new track was a thread unraveling something I thought was indestructible. By number 5, my hand was shaking. By number 10, I felt like I couldn't breathe. My eyes darted across the screen, desperate, hunting for something familiar, something that belonged to us, but it wasn't there. Every song was someone else's story, someone else's name hidden between chords and rhymes. And then I saw it. The playlist, a private one. I should never have opened it, but my fingers moved before my mind could stop. Them. Dozens of songs. All love songs. All carefully chosen. The title, 2 small letters. Her initials. I swear the air in the room shifted in that moment. Too sharp. Too heavy. Even the lamp seemed to buzz louder. The ticking of the clock mocked me. My body felt wrong, hollow, like it already knew before my mind had the courage to admit it. I stared at that playlist, at those neon confetti screens, meant to celebrate love, joy, connection, and realized I was celebrating the ghost of a love I never truly had. That's when I heard his key in the lock. The sound jolted me upright, his phone still hot in my hand. My heart kicked into gear so violently I thought it might bruise my ribs. My throat was dry, my palms slick. The door swung open, and there he was, smiling like the man I thought I knew. His hair messy from the wind, his cheeks pink from the cold. He smelled like home, like his cologne and the winter air clinging to his jacket. And for one suspended second, we were frozen in 2 different realities. Him, stepping into the warmth of our apartment, expecting laughter, comfort, routine. Me, holding proof of a secret life he'd been living without me. I didn't say anything. Not yet. I just stared at him, my fingers clutching his betrayal so tightly the phone case pressed sharp into my skin. He set down his bag, smiling, eyes soft, completely unaware. And in that moment, one thought seared through my mind so loudly it drowned out everything else. Does he even realize that I already... No. He kissed my forehead when he walked in, like nothing had changed, like my world hadn't just collapsed minutes before. His lips brushed my skin, soft and familiar, and for the first time ever, I flinched. Not enough for him to notice. At least, I don't think so. But inside, something shattered. I hid his phone behind my back, tucking it quickly into the couch cushion before he could see. My pulse was so loud in my ears, I thought he might hear it. He dropped his keys into the bowl, by the door, humming. And when I caught the melody, my stomach dropped. It was the song. Her song. #1 on his Wrapped. I wanted to scream, to shove the phone in his face and demand answers. But my body betrayed me. I just smiled, weak and trembling, and asked him about his day. My voice didn't sound like mine. It sounded like someone else. A woman rehearsing lines in a play she didn't want to be in. We made dinner together, like we always did. The rhythm of chopping, stirring, clattering dishes. It should have comforted me. But everything felt staged now, like a set on a stage, and I was backstage, watching the man I loved perform a role. He touched my lower back when he reached past me. He laughed at something I said. He poured me a glass of wine without asking because he knew I liked one on Tuesdays. All the little things that used to make me melt now burned. I caught myself staring at him, searching for cracks. Did his eyes look guiltier than before? Did his smile falter? Did he avoid holding my gaze? Or was I imagining it? Every gesture became evidence. Every silence became suspicious. When we sat down to eat, he put on music, his playlists, our ritual. But tonight the shuffle betrayed him. Halfway through the meal, one of her songs started playing, a love song so tender it could have stripped skin from bone. He froze for a split second, barely noticeable. But I saw it. That tiny flicker of panic before he hit skip, and my heart broke twice. First, because it confirmed everything. Second, because he tried to hide it. I set my fork down and leaned back, forcing my tone casual. I've never heard that one before. Who's it for? He looked up, startled. A smile tugged at his lips, but it didn't reach his eyes. Just something that got stuck in my head. The lie slid off his tongue so easily, I almost believed it. Almost. But I couldn't push. Not yet. The part of me that still loved him wasn't ready for the explosion. So I just nodded as if the answer satisfied me and sipped my wine. The rest of dinner passed in slow motion. Every second was a tug-of-war inside me. Scream or stay silent, demand or observe. By the time we cleared the plates, I'd chosen silence, but it wasn't passive. It was calculating. When he stepped into the shower, steam fogging up the bathroom, I slipped into the living room and pulled out his phone again. My hands trembled, my breath shallow, but I unlocked it easily. His code was still the same, the one he'd told me a year ago, trusting me completely. That trust now felt like ash in my mouth. I went straight back to the playlist. Her initials stared back at me, mocking me. I clicked into it, scrolling through song after song. Each one told a story, a progression of intimacy, from flirtation to longing to full-throttle devotion. It was all there, mapped out in melodies, and then my blood ran cold. Because one of the songs, the 6th track, was one he'd once sung to me. Late one night, when he thought I was asleep, his voice had drifted against my skin, tender and low. I thought it was ours. That moment had become sacred in my memory, but it wasn't ours. It was hers all along. I don't know how long I stood there, phone in hand, the weight of betrayal pressing down on me. The shower stopped. Panic surged through me, and I shoved the phone back where I found it. I barely made it to the couch before he walked back out, towel around his waist, hair dripping. He smiled when he saw me, like nothing in the world was wrong, like we weren't living two different stories under the same roof. And that's when it hit me. I couldn't keep pretending, but I also couldn't confront him yet. Because if I did, I'd lose not just him, but the truth. So I made a choice that night. A dangerous one. I decided to play his game, to smile, to laugh, to touch him back, while secretly watching every move. Because if he thought I didn't know, maybe I could finally see who he really was when he thought no one was looking, and maybe, just maybe, I'd find out who she was too. For the next week, I lived two lives. On the surface, I was the same girlfriend I'd always been. I laughed at his jokes. I kissed him goodnight. I held his hand on the walk to the corner cafe. But underneath, I was unraveling. Every smile felt rehearsed. Every touch felt like a test. He didn't notice. Or maybe he did and he just didn't care. At night, when he fell asleep beside me, I would lie awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying every song from that playlist in my head. The lyrics weren't mine anymore. They never had been. And yet, I clung to the warmth of his arm draped across me, like maybe if I held on tight enough, I could pretend the music wasn't real. One night, he reached for me in the dark, pulling me closer, pressing his lips to my shoulder. "I love you," he whispered. And I almost laughed again, that same broken laugh from the first night. Because I didn't believe it anymore, not in the way he wanted me to. The secret gnawed at me until it poisoned everything. I started watching him differently, his texts, his calls, the way he smiled at his phone when he thought I wasn't looking. He was careful, too careful, but no one can hide forever. And then, it happened. The slip. We were driving home from dinner, the radio low, the city lights painting his face in gold. He reached for the dial, flipping stations until a song filled the car. My stomach clenched instantly. It was hers, track number 2 from the playlist, the one about forever belonging to someone. I froze. My breath caught, sharp and audible. He glanced at me just for a second, then quickly back at the road. "You okay?" I swallowed hard. "Yeah, I've never heard this one before." He smiled faintly, but it wasn't real. "It's nothing. Just a song." My throat burned. My hands clenched in my lap. I don't know what possessed me, but the words slipped out before I could stop them. "It doesn't sound like nothing, it sounds like someone." The silence that followed was thick, suffocating. He tightened his grip on the steering wheel, knuckles white. For a heartbeat, I thought he'd deny it, pretend, laugh it off. But then his voice dropped, low and rough. "Maybe it is." The world tilted. My heart slammed against my ribs, loud, enough to drown out the music. I turned to look at him, but he wouldn't meet my eyes. "Who?" My voice was barely a whisper. He shook his head. "It doesn't matter." Of course it matters. I could feel tears burning, threatening to spill, but I forced my voice steady. "You made an entire playlist for her. You—" My throat closed around the rest. His head snapped toward me then, eyes wide with shock. "How do you know about that?" My breath hitched. I hadn't meant to reveal it, not yet, but it was out now, bare and bleeding between us. The car screeched as he pulled over to the side of the road. He turned to me fully, face pale, jaw tight. "You went through my phone?" I almost laughed again. That was what he cared about? Not the lies, not the betrayal, not the other woman, but my intrusion. I didn't answer. I couldn't. For a long moment, we just stared at each other, the engine idling, the city rushing past outside. My chest ached with everything unsaid. His eyes searched mine, panicked, guilty, desperate. And then, softer than I expected, his voice cracked. "It's not what you think." "Then tell me what it is." But he didn't. He just sat there, gripping the wheel like it could anchor him. His lips parted, closed, opened again. No words, and that silence was worse than any confession. Finally, I turned away, blinking back tears that blurred the lights into streaks of color. My voice was quiet but sharp as glass. You don't make playlists for nothing. The car ride home was silent after that. No music, no words, just the heavy weight of the truth pressing down on both of us. That night he tried to hold me in bed, arms curling around me as if nothing had changed. But my body was stiff, cold. I couldn't pretend anymore. Not fully. And as I lay there in the dark, his breath warm against my neck, one thought haunted me more than anything else. The next morning, the silence between us was unbearable. He brewed coffee like always, the rich smell filling the kitchen, but it didn't taste the same. Nothing did. Every gesture, passing me the sugar, brushing against my arm, smiling as if nothing had cracked, felt rehearsed, desperate. I couldn't stand it. I needed the truth raw and ugly, no matter how much it hurt, so I asked, "Who is she?" The question sliced through the air. His hand froze on the coffee pot. Slowly, he set it down, shoulders stiff, back still turned to me. "Don't," he said quietly. My heart hammered. "Don't what? Pretend? Ignore it? Because I can't. Not anymore." He finally turned, and the look in his eyes almost broke me. Not anger, not even guilt, but exhaustion. The kind of weariness that comes from carrying a secret too long. "It's complicated," he murmured. "Then uncomplicated," I shot back. "Tell me her name." He ran a hand through his hair, pacing once before sinking into the chair across from me. His jaw clenched, his lips pressed into a thin line, and then, so soft I almost missed it. "Her name's Lily." The world tilted. My breath stuttered. Lily. The name tasted foreign and poisonous on my tongue. "How long?" He closed his eyes. "A year. A year." My hands gripped the edge of the table, knuckles white. A year meant birthdays, holidays, lazy Sundays, moments I thought were ours, shared with someone else in the shadows. "Do you love her?" The question cracked something in my throat as it escaped. He hesitated, just long enough. And that pause was my answer. The tears came hot and unstoppable. I pressed my palms into my eyes, but it was no use. Everything inside me spilled out at once. He reached for me, fingertips brushing my arm, but I jerked away. "Don't." My voice was sharp, shaking. "Don't touch me." He pulled back, face crumpling, eyes glassy. For a moment I saw the man I fell in love with, the man who hummed me to sleep, who spun me around the kitchen, who built me a home inside music. But now all I could hear were the echoes of her songs. "Why?" My voice cracked under the weight of it. "Why me if you wanted her?" His chest rose and fell ragged. "I didn't plan it, I swear. It just happened. And I didn't want to lose you." The words stabbed deeper than any confession, because it wasn't just betrayal, it was greed. He wanted both, my love and hers, my trust and her fire, my heart and her playlist. I stood abruptly, the chair scraping against the tile. My legs felt weak, but fury held me upright. "You already lost me," I whispered. The silence after that was brutal. He didn't argue. He didn't beg. He just sat there, staring at his hands as if he could already feel the empty space where I used to be. I stormed into the bedroom, shoving clothes into a bag, my body shaking so hard I could barely zip it. Every drawer I opened felt like a punch. Sweaters he bought me, photos we framed together, ticket stubs from concerts we thought were ours. Lies, all of it. He appeared in the doorway, voice low, breaking. "Please, don't go like this." Whirled on him, tears streaking down my face. How else should I go? Smiling, thanking you for the soundtrack to your affair." His lips parted, but no words came. His silence was answer enough. I shoved past him, dragging my bag to the door. My chest felt hollow, my lungs raw. Every step away from him was agony, but staying felt like death. When I reached the threshold, I hesitated. My fingers tightened on the doorknob. 1,000 memories flashed through me in an instant, his laugh, his touch, his voice humming against my skin. For a split second, I almost turned back. But then I remembered her name. Lily. And the playlist he made for her. And I realized that even if he begged, even if he swore, even if he promised me forever, it would never erase the fact that his forever was already given to someone else. So I opened the door, and for the first time in 2 years, I walked out, alone. And yet, even as the cold air hit my face, one thought clung to me, cruel and insistent. I waited. I stood in the hallway outside our apartment, bag heavy in my hand, breath clouding in the chill of the building's draft. My body didn't move, but my heart raced like it was running a marathon, beating out one desperate question. Would he come after me? Seconds stretched into minutes. The silence pressed in on me, thick and unbearable. I could almost hear the echo of my own pulse in the stairwell. My eyes stayed fixed on the door, daring it to open, hoping, fearing. It didn't. And that was my answer. I walked out into the night, each step heavier than the last. The city lights blurred with my tears, the world spinning in colors that didn't feel real. I kept expecting him to appear behind me, running, calling my name, begging me to stay. But the only footsteps were mine. By the time I reached the corner, my body gave out. I sank onto a bench, bag at my feet, head in my hands. The sobs tore out of me, ugly and raw, shaking my whole chest. I hadn't cried like that in years. And it wasn't just for him, it was for the girl I used to be. The one who believed love songs couldn't lie. Hours blurred together. Eventually, I called a friend who picked me up, held me, didn't ask questions until I was ready to speak. And when I finally told her, when I said the words out loud, he was in love with someone else, the world didn't end. My chest still hurt, but the air felt a little clearer. Days passed, then weeks. The apartment felt like a ghost when I went back to collect the rest of my things. His cologne lingered on the furniture. The coffee mug still held faint rings of brown at the bottom. Our photos stared down at me from the walls, mocking frozen lies in glossy frames. I packed them into boxes without looking too closely. He wasn't there. He'd left the keys on the counter, his silence saying everything his mouth couldn't. We didn't fight. We didn't beg. We didn't try to glue back the shards of something already shattered. But the music, God, the music, haunted me. Everywhere I went, I heard traces of those songs. In cafes, in stores, drifting from passing cars. Each lyric felt like a knife. I couldn't escape it because the truth was, the soundtrack of his betrayal had become the soundtrack of my grief. One night, curled up on my friend's couch, I opened my own Spotify Wrapped. My fingers hovered over the screen, afraid of what I'd find, and then it hit me. The top song of my year wasn't his. It wasn't ours. It was mine. A song I'd played on repeat when I needed strength, when I needed to feel like I could breathe again. It wasn't about him. It wasn't about her. It was about me. And in that moment, something shifted. I realized his betrayal had stolen enough from me. I couldn't let it take music too. So I started building my own playlist, not of heartbreak, not of lies, but of healing. Songs that made me feel alive when I sang along. Songs that belonged only to me, to my voice, to my story. The first time, I danced again in the kitchen, barefoot, spinning with my hair falling into my eyes. I almost cried. But this time from relief. Because even though the floor felt emptier, it was also honest. The laughter was mine. The rhythm was mine. I won't lie and say it stopped hurting overnight. Some mornings I still wake up expecting the weight of his arm around me. Some nights, I still hear him humming in the dark. But slowly those ghosts fade. Slowly, the silence feels less like a punishment and more like peace. And if you're wondering about him, no, he never called. He never ran after me. He stayed in the life he chose, with the woman he built a playlist for. And maybe that's his version of love. But me, I've learned something far more valuable. Love isn't proven by playlists. It's proven by presence, by showing up every day, not just when the music plays. So when people ask me now if I regret it, if I regret loving him, I shake my head. Because love, even when it breaks you, teaches you something. It taught me the sound of lies, but it also taught me the strength of my own voice. And maybe one day, I'll find someone who doesn't need songs to say what they feel. Someone who looks at me and I'll just know. Until then, I have my music, my story, my heart, still beating, still whole, still mine. And that, I think, is the most beautiful song of all.